What's up? I'm Tyler Duffus from mixworship.com, and in this video I'm going to show you a couple of Waves plugins that I've been using to make my mixes just a little bit fatter, specifically on drums, but also on other things. So we're going to take a look at Magma Stressbox, which is a newer plugin, as well as the BB Tubes saturating plugin. Before we get too far into it, be sure to like and subscribe, hit that little notification icon to get notifications about future videos. Also be sure to check out mixworship.com for broadcast mix templates, as well as drum samples, Pro Tools and Studio One licenses, as well as Waves preset packages, which will be coming soon. Also check out tylerdufusmixing.com for mixing and mastering services from me. And be sure to use the links in the descriptions below. That just makes it so that I can continue to create content like this for you. So getting started, we're going to just take a quick look. I want to take a quick look at the Magma Stressbox first. So this is a neat little like one knob device to make stuff a little bit fatter. I have been specifically toying with this on snare drum, and more specifically my snare trigger channel. So if you've seen any of my other videos, I like drum triggers. I don't have to use drum triggers to get good drum sounds, but they make it just a little bit fatter. And I have them, so I will. For this purpose, it's already a pretty fat snare sound, but I really like a little bit of extra sustain. So taking a quick look, I've got a little bit of EQ on it, but not a whole lot because it's a sample. It's already pretty well processed. I'm also using a little bit of the Waves plugin Smack Attack because I like sustain on my, especially on my snare trigger, because like it's tough to get a lot of sustain out of your snare direct mic because you have so much bleed that's happening. But this makes it to where I can just like emulate a little bit that sustain to tuck in with the snare sound and just make it a little bit more bombastic. And I have a little bit of compression happening on the SSL channel, not a whole lot, just a touch, just to make it a little bit fatter. But the Magma Stressbox is effectively a one knob compressor that adds just a little bit of something, a little bit of mojo. There's also an expansion function. I don't know that I like that as much as I like the compression function, but basically you've got your compression, so you turn it to the right, and you've got your expansion and you turn it to the left. Then down here you got a little mix knob, and you have input and output. It has kind of an auto makeup function built in, but the more processing you add to it, the more you might have to manually adjust your input and your output. So here's without. Let's find a spot that's not a build, because that's not helpful. All right, here's with it on. Here's with it off. So it's just bringing up a little bit of that sustain, and I can bring this output down a little bit more so we can really hear what it's doing. So let's hear it with all the drums. Back on. Got the sample. So it just adds a little bit of weight. So something to play with. It's a new plugin. There should be a link in the description. It's also part of the Waves Ultimate subscription, so you can get it with that as well. And if you already have that, I encourage you to check it out. You can also add it to your snare direct mics, although I don't know that I have the same affection for it because it does bring up a little bit of that bleed from the cymbals. So it works. It definitely brings up a little bit of that cymbal bleed. I think it would be fine if you were doing a mix where you weren't using triggers. For my purposes, I don't know, since I do have a sample that I'm blending in with it, that I like the that little bit of cymbal bump that it gives. I don't like what it does for the snare more than what I don't like about what it does for the cymbal. But for a snare trigger channel, I think I like it a lot. So here's... And I have a little bit of expansion that I'm doing with the Waves SSL E channel. But yeah, I don't know that I like it as much as I like it on here. Yeah, I like it on the sample a lot. And we can even take a listen to our drums. And I'm going to bring my time adjuster over here. These are all drums. On our kick drum. Now, so this is our sample as well. Again, it adds a little bit of sustain to it. Kind of like that. Let's hear it on just our direct mic. Same thing, I'm going to bring my time adjuster over. Got a fair amount of bleed. Maybe we'll bring... And kind of like the snare situation, I don't know that I necessarily like that effect quite as much, given the nature of the bleed coming through. But I do like it on the sample. So here's it without all the drums, without the Magma Stressbox. It's just a little bit of extra fatness. I like it. So then the other thing we're going to look at in this video is BB tubes. So BB tubes, basically what this plugin is, it's just a saturator, and it's got a couple different flavors with a couple extra little tone jobs that you can use. On the front end, you've got a sensitivity, so you can boost or pull that back to emphasize the effect. And my understanding is that the plugin itself will auto-compensate on the back end for how much you bring in for sensitivity. You also have a bass relief. The frequency, this is a low shelf starting at 350 hertz. So this just changes how reactive the saturation is to the lower frequencies, so that you can kind of focus more on the higher frequencies. Like a lot of times with compression, with saturation, lower frequencies can make that saturation more reactive, and you don't get quite the same effect maybe that you're looking for like the mids and the highs. So this bass relief knob can help you control that a little bit better. You also have a makeup gain on your output. This transformer button is basically whether or not the effect is in or not. Over on this side, you have a high shelf before the saturator at 10,000 hertz, so you can give yourself a little bit of an extra boost, again, to make that a little bit more reactive to the higher frequencies, give it a little extra sparkle. And then you also have the same thing on the post side of the saturator, also at 10,000 hertz. Then right here, you got a type A and a type B, and these are just slightly different flavors of the tube saturation. So Beauty is more of a tube emulation. It's even harmonic, so it's a little bit smoother. Beast is more of a transformer saturation, and it's more of your odd harmonics, so it's a little crispier. And then down here, you've got a mix knob, which is just your dry or wet. So let's take a listen to what this is doing on our drums. Got a bypass. Now I've got it in. So I'm going to turn off our makeup gain. So the other thing with this plugin is even if it's engaged, if you have it turned all the way down, it does just a little bit, and that's by design because it's meant to emulate analog equipment where even if you don't have something engaged, it's still passing through, and so it still has a little bit of a color that it adds to the signal. So let's take a look at Beauty first. And so this is another kind of like it's almost like a compression, like a tube compression that's happening. And it just kind of warms the overall signal up. Then Beast. This is a little bit less like a soft compression and a little bit more of just a little bit of extra crunch. So the thing that I have found that I've liked to do, and I've got a little bit of a shelf happening to boost a little bit of that 10,000 hertz, and I've got the bass relief in at like 40%. I like to mix a little bit of the Beauty and the Beast. So I'm just bypassing to make sure that my makeup level, I'm actually hearing what the processor is doing and not just like, oh, it's making it louder, ergo it sounds better. That's not how that works. So, I mean, louder is better. But for our purposes, we want to make sure that it's actually helping the sound and not just making it louder and not sound better. For grins. So I feel like type B is a little bit smaller in the mid-range. I think I kind of like type A a little bit better. It just sounds just a little bit wider to me. Do like that little bit of compression. Okay, I kind of like how that's sounding. Let's hear it in the mix. So it just makes it sound a little bit bigger. It gives it a little bit of a grit that pushes the drums a little bit further forward in the mix, which I like. I do love my big fat drums. So I like it. I'm going to use it. Then let's jump over to our band mix, our music mix, where we've got our guitars, bass, keys. We'll do a little bit of this guy on there. And actually, before we move on to over there, let's take a quick listen. So you can really make this crunchy with that sensitivity. That's kind of fun. Let's hear that in the mix. Nice. Okay, now let's go over to our music bus. So this is our bass, guitars, keys, acoustic guitar, all that fun stuff. Let's hear what all this sounds like. And again, the beauty is it's very much like a warm, almost like an expansion, like a soft compression that just gives the instruments a fullness that I like. And then the beast just kind of gives it just a little bit of a sparkle, a little bit of grit that I feel like brings stuff a little bit further forward. So let's hear it in and out. It's nice. Bring the mix down a little bit. Yeah. So even bringing the mix down a little bit closer to 50%, it just it gives it just a little bit of excitement, which is usually the purpose for saturators. Now let's jump over and look at our vocals.
I live to minister to you, to move the heart that beats so true.
Again, it's just adds just a little bit of excitement to the vocals. Let's do a little top shelf.
To move the heart that beats so true. Look.
All right, let's hear that in the mix.
To move the heart that beats so true. Not for my name, not my reward.
So again, just a little bit of excitement gives it just a little bit of sparkle and will help, especially with like vocals and drums, will help push it a little bit forward in the mix, subtly and tastefully. So anyway, that is Waves BB Tubes and Magma Stressbox. I hope this was helpful. Again, check out mixworship.com for mix templates, drum samples, Pro Tools and Studio One licenses, as well as Waves presets coming soon. Also be sure to check out tylerduffusmixing.com for mixing and mastering services. Finally, the jam for this video is Minister to You, which is First Love Revolution Church in Lone Tree, Colorado, where I'm the production director. The song has not been released, but you can find it on some of our live streams. Be sure to check out those on YouTube and Facebook as well. Finally, don't forget to use the links in the description if you are interested in picking up any of these plugins. That just helps me to be able to continue to make content like this for you. Until next time, have a good day.